Alexandra Grant caught Keanu Reeves in a secret moment. The night was quiet, but Keanu Reeves could not sleep. He sat alone in the corner of his living room, the lights dim, a small notebook open in his hands. The city outside his window buzzed with life. Yet inside his home it felt like a world apart. His fingers moved slowly across the page, each line carrying words he never spoke aloud. For years he had carried silent thoughts, memories, and secrets he shared with no one. Tonight was different. He wrote about pain and hope, about the moments when life seemed too heavy, and about the faces that had given him strength when he thought he had none left. He wrote about kindness, about respect, about finding light when the world felt dark. And then, without warning, he paused. His eyes filled with emotion as he wrote a single sentence. It was not about movies, not about fame, not even about himself. It was about Alexandra Grant, the woman who had stood by him in silence, the one who understood without needing to ask questions. His pen stopped shaking only when he felt a presence. He looked up and froze. Alexandra was standing in the doorway. She had come quietly, not wanting to disturb him, but her eyes had already caught the words on the page. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "Keanu," she whispered, her voice gentle, almost afraid to break the silence. His heart raced. He had been caught in a secret moment, a part of himself he had never meant to reveal. This was the side of him no cameras saw, no interviews touched, the part that belonged only to the quiet hours of the night. Alexandra walked closer, her steps soft but certain. She did not judge. She did not question. Instead, she placed her hand on the table, close to his. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" she asked softly. Keanu lowered his head. "Because some things are easier to write than to say." And in that instant, something shifted. Alexandra's eyes filled with emotion. Not because of what he wrote, but because she realized how deeply he carried his thoughts, his struggles, and his dreams. She saw the resilience that kept him moving forward, the humility that made him different, the quiet kindness that touched everyone around him. But even as this truth revealed itself, suspense lingered in the air, because just as Keanu thought he was safe in this private moment, his phone buzzed. A message appeared on the screen. He read it once, then twice, his hands tightening around the phone. Alexandra leaned closer, worried. "What is it?" she asked. Keanu's voice was quiet, but the words were heavy. "Someone knows. Someone knows about this notebook, and they want me to give it up." Alexandra's breath caught.
"How could anyone know?"
The notebook was private, hidden from the world. Yet the message was clear, and it was only the beginning. Keanu closed the notebook gently, his face calm on the outside but storming within. He had been exposed, and now a secret he never wanted the world to see had become the very thing that could change everything. And Alexandra, still standing by his side, knew that from this night forward, nothing between them, or in his life, would ever be the same again. This was only the beginning of a journey filled with respect, resilience, and the fight to protect the parts of life most sacred. The message that changed everything. The night after Alexandra found Keanu with the notebook, silence lingered between them. She had not pressed him with questions, but the weight of that message on his phone stayed heavy in the room. Keanu sat on the edge of the couch, phone in his hand, the glow of the screen reflecting the unease in his eyes. The message was simple, but chilling. "I know what you're hiding. If you don't want the world to see, meet me." Alexandra leaned against the wall, watching him. Her calmness was not because she felt no fear, but because she had always believed in one thing. Truth could not be broken by threats. Yet she saw something in Keanu's expression that night, something deeper than fear. It was not about protecting himself, but about protecting the quiet parts of his life that the world never knew. "What will you do?" she asked, her voice steady. Keanu looked up, his eyes soft but determined. "I don't know yet. But whoever sent this, they want to use something that was never meant for them. Those words in the notebook, they aren't for the world. They're for me." Alexandra walked closer, sitting beside him. "You've given so much of yourself already. To films, to fans, to strangers who needed kindness. If someone wants to take what belongs only to you, you have to decide whether to fight, or to let them see the truth." Her words struck him, but before he could answer, the phone buzzed again. Another message. "Tomorrow. Midnight, come alone. If you don't, I will share everything." The tension in the room tightened. Alexandra's hand reached for his, grounding him. "You won't go alone," she said firmly. Keanu shook his head. "They asked for me. I can't risk them hurting anyone else. Not you, not anyone close to me." The conflict between them was unspoken but clear. Alexandra wanted to protect him, but Keanu's nature was always to protect others. Humility and selflessness were in his very core, yet they often put him in danger of carrying burdens too heavy for one person. The following day was filled with quiet tension. Keanu went through his routine: coffee, a motorcycle ride, short greetings to neighbors, but his thoughts were elsewhere. Alexandra watched him carefully, knowing he was preparing for something bigger than himself. As evening fell, the city lights flickered like stars scattered across the ground. Keanu sat at his desk with the notebook in front of him, running his fingers over the cover. Alexandra stepped in holding 2 cups of tea. "You don't have to face this the way they want," she said softly. He smiled faintly, his eyes tired but kind. "Sometimes, Alexandra, the only way forward is through." Just before midnight, Keanu left his home, the notebook tucked under his arm, his figure hidden beneath a simple jacket. Alexandra followed him in secret, her heart unwilling to let him face this alone even if he asked her to. The meeting place was a deserted parking lot at the edge of the city. The air was cold, the sound of the wind echoing against empty walls. Keanu stood under a flickering light, waiting. A shadow moved. Someone stepped forward, face hidden beneath a hood. The figure's voice was sharp, controlled. "You don't know me, Reeves. But I know you. That notebook. It's worth more than you think. Give it to me and I'll make sure it never sees the light of day." Keanu's grip on the notebook tightened. "It's not for sale. It's not for anyone." These words, "They are not yours to own." The hooded figure chuckled darkly. "Then be ready, because if you don't hand it over, I'll expose every page. The world will see what you hide when the cameras are gone." Suspense hung heavy. Keanu's humility, his respect for privacy, his resilience. All of it stood against the threat of being exposed in ways he never wanted. Hidden in the shadows, Alexandra's heart pounded. She knew this moment would test everything about him. And just as the figure took a step closer, a sound broke the silence. The unmistakable click of a camera shutter. Someone else was there, watching, recording. Keanu turned sharply, realizing the trap was bigger than he thought. The trap in the shadows. The click of the camera echoed louder than any shout could. Keanu's body tensed, his instincts sharp. He turned toward the sound, but the shadows only revealed a brief flash of light before it disappeared into the night. Whoever had taken that photo was gone in seconds. The hooded figure smirked, his voice cutting through the silence. "You see, Reeves? You're not in control anymore. People are watching, and when they see what's in that notebook, they won't think of you the same way." Keanu's jaw tightened, but his voice was calm. "The world doesn't need to see these words. They are not for them. They are not for you." The figure took a step closer, his tone low and threatening. "Then give me the notebook, or I will make sure the world sees every word, every secret. And when they do, your quiet life, your peace, it will all burn." Keanu stood still, the notebook pressed close to his chest. He thought of Alexandra, who was hidden nearby, silently watching with her heart in her throat. He thought of the fans who saw him only as a star, never as a man with pain, struggles, and a need for private space. Alexandra, in the darkness, clenched her fists. She wanted to step forward to shout at the stranger, but she knew if she did, Keanu's resolve would be tested even more. She had to trust him. Keanu finally spoke, his words slow and steady. "You think secrets have power, but the truth is, kindness has more. Humility has more. People may misunderstand me, but I will not give you this." His refusal only lit more fire in the hooded figure's eyes. "Then prepare yourself. The photos will spread, the words will spill out, and when they do, you'll have no choice but to watch the world turn on you." With that, the figure turned and vanished into the shadows, leaving the air colder than before. Keanu stood alone under the flickering light, his hand trembling slightly against the cover of the notebook. Alexandra finally emerged, her face pale with worry. "Keanu, this isn't just someone trying to scare you. They've already started. That photo, they want the world to doubt you." Keanu looked at her, his eyes heavy but filled with quiet strength. "Then we have to be ready, not to fight them with anger, but to face them with truth." The drive home was silent, but in his heart storms raged. Every page of the notebook carried words that came from his soul. What if they were taken out of context? What if the world twisted his vulnerability into weakness? That night, Keanu sat again at his desk, the notebook in front of him. Alexandra sat nearby, her presence a steady comfort. He flipped through the pages, his voice breaking as he read a line aloud. "I write so I don't forget, that even in pain there can still be hope. Alexandra's eyes softened. If the world saw these words, they would not see weakness. They would see strength. Keanu shook his head. Maybe, but people don't always want truth. Sometimes they want stories that destroy instead of heal. Suddenly, the phone buzzed again. Another message. This one sharper than before. You didn't listen. Tomorrow the first page goes public. Everyone will see who you really are. Alexandra placed her hand over his. Keanu, you don't have to fight this alone. If they want to turn your truth into a weapon, then we'll show them it's not something that can be used against you. For the first time, Keanu allowed himself a small smile. Maybe that's what they never expected, that what they see as a secret is actually something that could inspire. But even as he said it, a question haunted them both. Who was behind this? And why did they want to break the very heart of a man known for his humility and kindness? The first page exposed. The morning light broke into the room, but it did not bring peace. Keanu and Alexandra sat in silence, their eyes fixed on the glowing screen of his phone. The message had been real. The first page of the notebook was now online. Someone had scanned it and released it to the public. The words written in his quietest night were now spread across millions of eyes. It was not a confession of fame or power. It was simple, vulnerable. It read, "Sometimes I wake up and wonder if kindness still matters in a world that forgets it too quickly. But I choose it anyway because without it, what is left?" Within hours, social media exploded. Some voices praised his honesty, calling it inspiring, a reminder of humanity in a world too focused on noise. Others twisted the words, questioning if Keanu was weak, if he was hiding something darker. Keanu sat still, his face unreadable, though Alexandra saw the storm in his eyes. "They've turned your private truth into public debate," she whispered. He nodded slowly. "I knew they would. Words are fragile when taken from their home." But then, something unexpected began to unfold. People across the world started sharing their own truths in response. Strangers posted stories of moments when they chose kindness despite pain. Others wrote about losses, struggles, and resilience. The hashtag after choosing kindness began to spread. Unplanned, unstoppable. Alexandra showed him the screen. "Look, they are not mocking you, Keanu. They are sharing because of you." For a brief moment, he allowed hope to rise in his chest. But the relief did not last. Another message appeared on his phone. Sharper, colder than before. "This is only the beginning. You think the world is on your side now? Wait until they see the next page. Not all your words are so soft. Some will break the image they love." His heart sank, because he knew it was true. The notebook was not only filled with hope, it also carried lines of anger, grief, and the rawest parts of his soul. That evening, Alexandra walked with him through the garden outside, the autumn air crisp around them. "You can't stop them by hiding, Keanu," she said gently. "But maybe you can choose how the world receives this. Maybe you can take back control." He looked at her, the weight of years etched into his expression. "You mean, show them myself?" She nodded. "Yes. Not through leaks, not through threats, but through your own choice, your own voice." It was a terrifying thought, to open his heart to the world on his own terms. Yet as he walked beside Alexandra, Keanu realized something. The very act of keeping the notebook hidden had given power to those who wanted to use it against him. Later that night, he sat at his desk again, a camera placed before him. Alexandra sat nearby, her steady presence giving him courage. Keanu pressed record. His voice was soft, steady, every word carrying weight. "These pages were never meant for the world. They were meant for me. They are my quiet conversations with myself. But if the world sees them, I hope you understand. They are not about perfection. They are about being human. About pain, loss, kindness, and the choice to continue." As he spoke, Alexandra watched him with pride, knowing this moment was not just about protecting a notebook. It was about embracing his truth with humility and strength. But even as he ended the recording, his phone buzzed again. The next message sent a chill down both their spines. "Brave speech, Reeves. But tomorrow the page about loss goes live, and when they read who you wrote about, the world will break you." The page of loss. The next morning felt heavier than the last. Keanu sat with Alexandra at the kitchen table, both of them waiting, knowing what was coming. When the notification finally appeared, neither reached for the phone right away. It was Alexandra who picked it up first, her hand trembling slightly as she unlocked the screen. The page had been posted. It was one of the hardest entries from the notebook, a piece of his soul he had never thought anyone else would see. The words were written years ago, when grief had weighed on him like an anchor. Some nights I dream she is still here, laughing, alive, and when I wake, the silence crushes me all over again. I ask myself why the world takes light so easily. I write so I can hold her memory because my heart cannot carry the loss alone. Alexandra placed the phone down gently, her eyes filled with quiet sorrow. She didn't need to ask who he had written about. She already knew. The internet moved fast. Fans began connecting the words to tragedies from Keanu's past, the losses he had carried so quietly for so long. Some voices responded with empathy, sharing their own grief, but others twisted it, asking cruel questions, trying to pull apart the privacy of his most fragile memories. Keanu sat motionless, staring at the wooden surface of the table. He had faced cameras, critics, and countless challenges in his career, but nothing felt as raw as this moment, his private grief becoming a spectacle for strangers. Alexandra reached for his hand. They cannot break you with this. Grief does not make you weak. It makes you human. And if the world cannot see that, then they don't deserve your honesty. He looked at her, his voice barely above a whisper. But what if they turn her memory into something ugly? What if they use her name for headlines? She shook her head firmly. Then we remind them that love and loss are not entertainment. They are the truth of being alive. Throughout the day, messages poured in. Fans wrote about parents they had lost, siblings, friends, children. People from every corner of the world sent words of comfort, telling Keanu that his pain reminded them they were not alone in theirs. Still, the shadow lingered. Late that night, another message arrived. See how quickly they cling to your pain? They feed on it. Tomorrow, another page. The one about anger. Let's see how they respond when they find out how much darkness you really hold. Keanu leaned back in his chair, his hands pressed against his face. They won't stop, Alexandra. No matter what I say, they'll keep tearing pieces away until nothing is left. But Alexandra moved closer, her eyes steady and fierce. Then we changed the story. Instead of letting them take it piece by piece, you show the world yourself, not through stolen pages, but through your own voice. You decide what they see and how they see it. Her words settled deep inside him. For the first time, he began to understand. Maybe this was not just about defending his privacy. Maybe it was about showing that vulnerability could be strength. That being honest about pain, loss, and even anger was not shameful. It was human. Keanu nodded slowly, his eyes finding hers. If they want my truth, then I will give it. Not through threats, not through leaks. I will share it because I choose to. Alexandra squeezed his hand, her expression softening. And that choice will be what saves you. Reclaiming the story, the sun rose quietly. But inside Keanu's heart, a storm settled into calm resolve. The notebook lay on the table, no longer just a private collection of words, but a symbol of everything he had tried to protect. His grief, his kindness, his quiet truths. Alexandra sat beside him, her steady presence reminding him he was not alone. The message from the shadowed figure still lingered on his phone. The page of anger will destroy you. Yet instead of fear, Keanu felt something different now. Clarity. He turned to Alexandra. If they want to show the world my anger, then I will show it first. Not as shame, but as truth. Because anger, too, is human. It is what we feel when we love and lose, when we see injustice, when kindness is forgotten. It does not make me less, it makes me real. With her quiet nod, Keanu set up the camera again. His voice, steady and low, filled the room as he began to speak. These words were taken from me, but today I share them because I choose to. I have written about pain, loss, and anger, not because I wanted the world to see, but because I needed to remember that being human means carrying all of it. I am not ashamed of these words. They are part of who I am, and maybe they are part of who you are too. He read from the notebook, his voice unshaken. I feel anger when the world takes too much from those who have already lost. I feel anger when cruelty replaces kindness. But anger is not where I stop. I write to turn anger into action, to remind myself to still choose hope. When the video went live, the reaction was immediate. People around the world did not turn away from his anger. They connected to it. They shared their own words, their own struggles with rage and sorrow, and how they, too, tried to turn it into something better. The shadowed figure, once holding power over him, now found their threats empty. The stolen pages no longer had the strength to wound because Keanu had taken back the choice. Still, one last message arrived. You think you've won, Reeves, but you only exposed yourself further. What happens when the world grows tired of your truth? Keanu read it, then placed the phone down without replying. He looked at Alexandra and smiled faintly. Then I'll keep living my truth. Because it's not about them growing tired, it's about never giving up on being human. That night, for the first time in weeks, Keanu wrote in the notebook again. Not in fear, not in hiding, but in freedom. Alexandra leaned over his shoulder, reading the new words as he wrote them. I was afraid my truth would break me, but instead it reminded me I am not alone. The world is filled with people carrying pain, love, anger, and hope, and together, we keep going. Alexandra placed her hand on his, her eyes shining with quiet pride. You didn't just protect your story, Keanu. You turned it into something the world needed. Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the battles fought in silence. But inside that room, Keanu Reeves had found peace in knowing his story was no longer a weapon against him. It was a gift he had chosen to give.